Hi everybody, hope you're all well. Hopefully you can all hear me fine. Just going to wait a few moments for Jane to come on and then I will add her into the live. So I hope you're all really well. Hope you've got a drink and you're all comfy because this is going to be a really interesting Facebook live. I have a glass of wine. Hi Jane. I'm going to try and bring you on the camera. So it says it's adding you, so fingers crossed this will work. It says adding.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi Jane, how are you
Good.
doing?
Fine, I'm so pleased that the technology works. I was really worried about that.
I know, I know you were nervous about it, so well done. Well done. Do you know what? Honestly, I've done a few of these Facebook Lives now, and it's been hit and miss whether or not they've worked or whether the sound's been good. But each one's getting slightly better. I'm working it out now.
Yeah. I'm not a digital native, you see. I'm the next generation up. So.
Oh, do you know what? You're doing well. You're doing well then in that case.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for jumping on. So what I'll do, Jen, I'm just going to kind of kick off and just really say a big hi to everybody in the Strong Mama Sisterhood, and a big hi to all the newbies who have recently joined the Sisterhood as well. So on behalf of all the newbies, just to kind of say hi, I'm Rachel Broderick, so I'm kind of like the driving force behind the Strong Mama Sisterhood, and welcome to this amazing free online community, which I set up really out of a passion really for mums to take some time for themselves, and it was really came off the back of I suppose my own personal experience struggling to find time for myself, and realizing that when I did actually make time to do that and you know, move my body and exercise and try and eat a little bit better and try and get a little bit more sleep and also work on my mindset, I actually felt a hell of a lot better when I did those things. And that became even more evident after I had my second child. So that's why I created the Strong Mama Sisterhood, because I wanted to create a space where we could kind of share ideas about how to be healthier in mind and body, and it's just something I'm really passionate about. And for those who are new to the Strong Mama Sisterhood, who've joined over the course of the last month, what I do try to do is kind of on a monthly basis is have some guest speakers come into the group, because obviously I'm quite active in the group and I post and share a lot of content, but I sometimes think it's really nice to hear from other people and get other perspectives on female health and mental well-being as well. So you'll find that over the course of the next few months, I've got some really exciting speakers lined up to come and share their kind of insights into kind of well-being and self-care. But tonight I'm really excited because Jane has joined me. Jane Fox has joined me to have a chat about what she does, which is solutions focused hypnotherapy. I think I've said that right.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm going to obviously ask what that is in a moment, but can I just ask, because I know there are some people watching, can you tell me whether you can everybody hear me okay? Is the sound okay? If you can just give me a comment or a thumbs up or a yes that you can hear me okay, that would be really helpful, because we had some sound issues last month and I've actually gone and invested in a proper microphone, so I feel like I'm a radio producer at the moment. I'm sat here with like a professional setup, but if you could just drop a quick comment or a thumbs up and let me know that the sound's okay. I've got some thumbs up there. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Okay, so Jane, thank you so much. So Jane, I'm going to just really kind of introduce you to I guess to the community here. So we kind of, how did we come to be in contact, Jane? I know I reached out to you. How did I
get to know you met our group at the oh gosh, what was it called?
The Float
You met
Festival in
Lisa. Float,
Manchester.
that's it, the Float Festival. You met Lisa, who is our massage
Yes.
therapist in our Well Women's
Yes.
Collective. So we're a group of 8
Yes.
ladies who various we do various jobs, but all really related to pre and postnatal care. So we kind of got ourselves
Okay.
together as a little collective, and I think you met Lisa, and
That's
then you
right.
contacted
I
me from
did.
there. Yeah.
I did. That's right. So the Float Festival was like a health and wellness festival in Manchester, and I kind of went along and got chatting to your colleague, and she was telling me about this amazing collective of women who are kind of, like you say, who've pulled together to kind of combine their services, like you say, for pre and postnatal. And I just thought that was absolutely fascinating, because I'd never heard of anything like that, and I wish there'd have been something like that around when I, when I was pregnant first and second time round, I'd been aware of you, because I certainly would have been in contact, because I just think it's absolutely fantastic. Because I sometimes think we have this idea that we want to know, what a doula does and how hypnotherapy could help us, and hypnobirthing and all this kind of stuff, but you don't know where to
start.
Look for that. No, so I think it's a brilliant idea. But Jane obviously is a trained hypnotherapist, and she has her own private clinic, as well as being part of the Women's Wellness Collective. She was a featured guest blogger on my website in January, and she wrote a fantastic piece on how we form new habits, which was really timely at the start of the new year. So if you haven't had a chance to read that, get over to my website and have a read. It's well worth the read. But some of the services that she provides, and I saw this on the Women's Wellness Collective Facebook page, talks about hypnotherapy for anxiety and self-hypnosis for childbirth. And I think the anxiety is one that many mums can relate to, and I've certainly had experience of anxiety myself, and I know I obviously run a separate to this, I run a online fitness and wellbeing boot camp. And one of the things, one of the barriers that comes up quite a lot for a lot of women is anxiety, and just general overwhelm, I think. So I think that's something that a lot of people really do relate to, certainly in this day and age. So I'd love to know a little bit more about that, but just to kind of, I'm just going to dive in with you, Jane, because I really want to protect your time, and I said I wanted to kind of keep to having us. So I'm just going to kind of fire the questions at you, really. So I suppose just to kind of kick off, explain to me what hypnotherapy is, because I have a preconception of hypnotherapy that it's, a lot of people think it's, they've seen something on TV where somebody gets hypnotized and then they pretend they're a chicken, and so I think people have this preconception of hypnotherapy and it being a little bit dangerous and not being in control. So could you just explain it to us, I suppose, as a start? Really?
I think that is the biggest misconception, is that it's like stage hypnotism, that that you are going to make you take control of you, make you cluck like a chicken and all that sort of thing. Well, to be fair, if that's what you want to do in life, to cluck like a chicken, then I'll help you with that. But not many people do really. But we cannot make you do anything you don't want to do. We're not in control of you. When you're in trance, as we call it, you're just in control. Trance is a perfectly normal state of mind. We go in and out of trance all day anyway. We call it daydreaming, being away with the fairies, if we're exercising, being in the zone. The best way to kind of explain it is if you are, if you're driving down the motorway and you get to junction 19 and you're sort of thinking, I don't remember junction 17 and 18, because you're just sort of very relaxed and think your mind's doing different things. But you know that if somebody pulled out in front of you, you'd put the brakes on. You're not asleep, you are aware, but just nicely relaxed. Those people that you see, those stage hypnotists, that's entertainment. That's different from therapy. If you've ever been in one of those situations, you'll know that they start off by testing the audience. They'll get them to pretend, or they'll get them to kind of put their hands together, and there is a way of confusing the brain to make you think that your hands are actually stuck together. So there's a selection process. They look for those people in the audience that are going, oh yeah, me. They won't touch those people that are going, oh my God, I don't want to be picked and go on the stage. So they're very careful who they pick. And then when they do actually get them on stage, they're the extroverts. They're the people who would probably do exactly the same thing after a few pints. They just lower their inhibitions a little bit. So that's not what we do. We do we have a light trance, and what it does is it means we can kind of make suggestions to that subconscious mind in a gentle way. Nothing as violent as well, nothing as excessive as clucking like a chicken or anything like that.
So what is your on your website? It talks about solution focused hypnotherapy. So what exactly is that?
Well, what we mean by solution focus, it kind of does what it says on the tin, really. We don't focus on the problem. When a client comes to us, we do an initial consultation where we discuss, and we will go over a little bit of history, but that tends to be just to make sure that what we're doing is suitable and that we're taking the right direction with the therapy. But we don't actually talk about the problem. We take the client from where they are now to where they want to be in the future. We use their strengths, their resources. We get them to sort of identify how they are going to make the changes that they need to make. We don't advise them. We don't tell them what they should do. We believe that the client is the expert in their own life, and they generally know what they need to do, but it's just a sort of extracting that progress from themselves. So the solution focus bit just means that we move them forward. We don't go back over the past, over the negative past. We're very positive.
Okay. Because that was going to ask that. How does it differ from other forms of therapy? So
yeah, that's kind of the main thing, really, is that we don't go back over the past. We're very positive. We don't give advice, and we use trance, so that's kind of different from others. Solution focused brief therapy is actually a type of talking therapy in itself, and our therapy uses a few of those techniques, but then latches the hypnotherapy on at the end, which kind of gives the techniques a bit of a boost, because then we get in trance, the brain starts problem solving. And those changes that we've talked about in the talking section, the brain starts working on those and comes to some solutions, helps to come to a solution.
Okay. So how would you say that what you do with solutions focused hypnotherapy, how can that be used to benefit somebody's mental well-being?
Yeah, well, we use it to sort of in ever so many aspects, really. We use it for, you mentioned anxiety. We certainly, it's a really useful way of combating anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, stress-related illnesses like irritable bowel and irritable bowel syndrome, and some other some skin conditions, migraines, that sort of thing. But we also help with confidence and self-esteem issues. We kind of talk about how would things be different if they were a little bit better? What would make things a little bit better, and gradually progress the client. Anxiety comes from that part of the brain, that primitive part of the brain where the fight or flight reaction comes from, and it because it's sort of involved in our survival, it has a very strong hold on us, and when we're operating in that primitive part of the brain, we tend to be negative, we tend to be obsessive, we suffer from anger, anxiety, depression, and I explain all this in detail in the initial consultation, sort of how the brain works, how anxiety is formed, but what we aim to do is kind of get the thinking away from that primitive part of the brain where we've got the anxiety, the fight or flight, and move it into the conscious mind where we can make good decisions, where we're in control, we make good choices. So with that kind of move, it's all to do with sort of positivity and that change of attitude from the negative into the positive. But
Okay.
we can use it to help people sort of solve their problems, change their habits, move them forward to where they want to be in their life. I quite often get comments. Quite
Go
often
on,
get
sorry. Go,
comments,
go on.
I want to get back to me. The kind of people lose their feeling of their identity. And I think anxiety tends to increase a lot when you first have children, because you're not only thinking about protecting yourself now, you've got other little beings to protect in your family, in your tribe kind of thing. So that does raise the anxiety, definitely
Yeah.
after children.
Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of mums relate to. And like I say, it's something that when I speak to the women in my fitness and wellbeing boot camp, it's something that comes up quite often. And I just think that I think the pressures of that we have on us nowadays as women and as mums as well, from my perspective, it's almost like we were told that you can have it all, you can have the job and you can have the family and you can have this, and actually it's really difficult, and I'm not convinced you can personally have it all. I think I think we've kind of been sold this idea that we can have it all and we should be able to balance it all. And I think, like, for me, that's where for me personally, that's where that anxiety sometimes comes from.
How many plates
I don't know,
can you have spinning?
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
And
I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I don't. We can't really concentrate on more than one. We can't really focus on more than one thing at a time. So if we're spreading ourselves so thinly, it's just going to lead to anxiety. It does tend to be. To be fair, the clients I find that most struggle with anxiety are actually sort of middle-aged, that sandwich generation, middle-aged ladies who maybe have teenage children, or older children with grandchildren. They've maybe got their parents who are elderly. They're sort of getting need looking after. So there's like 3 generations that the lady is sort of responsible for, and it's all those plates spinning, and you're trying to make sure none of those plates drop, and you're running from one to another, keeping them going, and it's just really, really stressful. And what you said before about self-care is so important as well. These when you're running around spinning your plates, helping everybody else, you forget about yourself, and then you just run out of energy. It's like when you go on an aeroplane and they do the safety demonstration and they say, put your oxygen mask on before you help anybody else. And that's what we should do in life as well. We should make sure that we're okay, otherwise we can't help anybody else if we're not okay. So it is important.
For me, that's such a big part of the message that I'm really passionate about, is that whole piece around taking care of yourself first. And because the first thing that I notice is that if I'm not looking after my health, so if I'm not getting, for me personally, it's like not enough sleep, and I'm not eating the right foods, and I'm not drinking enough water, quite quickly I start to feel quite ill and run down and emotional. And it's just that, your body can't cope with all of that pressure, and if you're not taking care of yourself. So I absolutely completely agree with everything you're saying, but I think it's so difficult sometimes to put yourself first, isn't it? And sometimes it's what time have you got left at the end of the day, but it's trying to flip it on its head and say, actually, you're worth carving out 10 minutes to go and sit and maybe just read a book or meditate or do some yoga or go for a walk or whatever it is. You're actually worth that time. And I think that's where a lot of women struggle and mums struggle, is actually thinking, I'm going to go and take that time.
We set very high standards for ourselves, don't we? We want a nice, clean, tidy house. We want a fridge full of food. We want a meal on the table at night. But, I think it's very true that when you've got a new baby, for example, when baby sleeps, you sleep. Don't do the ironing. Don't do the washing up. Have a rest when baby rests, But you feel like you've got to do those things and keep all those
Yeah.
plates spinning.
It's
And it's
hard.
not
It's
good.
really, really, really hard. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Jane, was you talk in your blog that you wrote for my website in January about the subconscious and how we build new habits. So,
Yeah.
so just to make the kind of relate this back to what I kind of do. So, obviously I run the Body Positive Boot Camp, which is a fitness boot camp. And, sometimes the women in my boot camp, they are trying to create that time to, they want to work out, they want to eat better. And it's about forming new habits, and
Yeah.
it might be something that they think, right, and they throw themselves in, for the first week it's like perfect, although perfection is not something that I ever talk about, because I'm sat here drinking a glass of wine on a weeknight, so but
that sounds pretty perfect to me.
Well, it's my kind of perfection,
Yeah.
but and then they'll get to kind of week 2, and in their mind they let something slip, and then it all unravels, and then they think, oh God, I've failed at it. So can you kind of explain you talk about the subconscious and forming new habits, can you kind of just elaborate on that a little bit more?
Well, those habits that we have, those patterns of behaviour that we have, are actually physical things. They're actually physical connections of neurons in the brain, and the more we do something, the stronger those neural pathways get. So when we've got a habit, when we've got a behavioural pattern, it tends to be quite strong. And it sits in the subconscious, that part of the brain that, again, is to do with sort of fight or flight, with survival, with protection. So it is very much affected by how we're feeling. If we're feeling very negative, and we're stressed, we're going to find it more difficult to break those connections. It's a bit like, I kind of relate it to being on a ski slope. If you're at the top of a ski slope and you want to get to the pub at the bottom for your après ski, you take the fastest route down. It's nice and smooth and quick, and you get to the bottom. But then you think, maybe that pub down there in the other direction is better, but that route is a bit tougher. It's not being used very much. The snow's softer, there's overgrowth, but you think, no, I'm going to go that way instead. And to start with, it's really hard. It's really hard because you've got to make a bit more effort. You've got to work with that soft snow and work with that undergrowth, whatever. But the more you use it, the smoother it gets. You might occasionally still go down the faster route, but then you can come back and have another go at going down the difficult one. And eventually that becomes a quicker route down to the bottom. And in the meantime, the other one is kind of snowed over, and it becomes more difficult, and it disappears. And it's the same thing that happens with these pathways in our brains. If we it might be a little difficult to go a different direction, but the more we do it, the easier it gets. And in the meantime, the other pathway disappears. So to be able to do that successfully, it's kind of helpful to have that positive outlook and be using that conscious part of your brain instead of that more primitive subconscious brain, where the tendency is for us to want to keep doing the same things because that's comfortable. That's what we've always done, so we'll keep doing it. A little bit more, it's harder, but it's about doing things and making small changes, and that's what we're all about, really, is making small, achievable changes. That's what happened with New Year resolutions. We're suddenly sort of saying, right, this is it. I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. We just don't do it. But if you say, right, I'm going to go for a walk 2 mornings this week, that's far more achievable and far more likely to happen, and far more likely to be able to continue doing that. And then just adding a little bit each time is going to be more successful than trying to do too much at once.
I think you're right, Jane, and I think, you know, it's about, isn't it? It's about actually accepting. It's something that we're talking about in my boot camp today, actually, is anticipating what those challenges are going to be, because they are going to happen. You know, life isn't a smooth straight line. Things happen, curveballs get thrown, you know, life happens, and you know, that means you can get off track, you know, you can plan everything to be like perfect, but things happen, and it's about saying, well, do you know what, I anticipate that this might happen and that might happen. This is what I can do. If I know that this could happen, so what would I do in that situation? And kind of thinking about it in advance, so that when it does happen, it's almost like you've already kind of gone through a little bit of a process beforehand, and kind of gone through, rather than thinking, oh, that's it, diet's not off, and all that kind of stuff.
I've had a biscuit, I might as well have the whole packet.
And one of the things I'm like massively passionate about is that saying that, do you know what, God, if you want a glass of wine, if you don't want to work out, that if you're not well, I mean, I would say, like, try and push through, because you'll feel amazing afterwards. But you know, if you're not well, and whatever that, or you know, your diet's not great that day, your nutrition's, I don't like the word diet, but your nutrition's not great that day. Rather than writing off the week, just go, do you know what, it wasn't great today. I'm just going to kind of like get focused again tomorrow, and just try my best. And I think it's just about making this, be kind, you know, and celebrate the small wins, because it's about that. There's a really good book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and that's exactly what he talks about. It's I think a lot of people expect to see big changes, like they make these big declarations and they want to see these big changes straight away. But actually, it's a combination, a compound effect of lots of little small changes.
And each of those
small period of time.
Each of those small changes has a ripple effect. It's something just as simple as, right, I'm gonna do the kids' packed lunch before I go to bed. So then you're not so stressed in the morning. So you're not late dropping the kids off at the childminders or on the way to work. So that means you get to work in a better frame of mind, which means you can concentrate on your work better. Just that one simple thing has a massive ripple effect through your life. And what we try to do is just think about those small changes and get the client to identify those small changes that are going to make things a little bit better for them, and then it just kind of takes off from there. You know, it's amazing, and that's the thing also about solution focused work, is that the client knows what those changes need to be. They will identify them, so it fits in with their life. I could tell my client, oh well, what you ought to do is you ought to make the packed lunch the night before. But that might not be the change that their brain wants to do, you know. So we have to make sure that it's their idea, their change, not ours.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing, actually. I mean, talking from personal experience, you know, in my mind, you kind of have an idea what the perfect day would look like and how the day would go, and obviously sometimes that doesn't happen and it all goes to pot. But actually, I'm constantly tweaking my routine to make it work. And I think as long as we're kind of accepting that that's okay, it's okay to tweak it to make it work for you. And that's completely normal. And actually to enjoy the process of trying to find the way that works for you, rather than finding it stressful. I think it's a big part of it as well. One of the questions that I wanted to ask was, is there such a thing as self-hypnosis? Because I've kind of heard of this idea. I don't know if it's true. Is this the same as meditation, or does self-hypnosis exist? Is it is that true?
Self-hypnosis definitely does exist. I mean, we kind of teach clients self-hypnosis for a lot of situations. Hypnobirthing is self-hypnosis. We're not there when when mum's having a baby, we teach mum to techniques of relaxing. And in fact, with childbirth, we usually use a colour. The mum to be practices throughout her pregnancy, associating a colour with a feeling of control and relaxation, which we start teaching them in sessions, and then they practice at home, so that by the time it comes to, you know, they go into labour, they can sort of draw on their colour, and that brings with it that sense of relaxation and calm, and that's self-hypnosis. We also teach, you know, people use self-hypnosis for pain control. People who suffer from chronic pain can get great benefit from self-hypnosis. And for anxiety, we can use a technique called anchoring, where again we teach the client to make this association between a gesture. Usually, you know, you may have seen people sort of doing this to be calm, but make that association between the gesture and a feeling of calmness. So whenever they feel anxiety rising, they can do that and bring back that feeling of calm and reduce the anxiety. Okay. And we also do practice sort of mental rehearsal, because that primitive part of the brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imaginary. So the anxiety, we can reduce anxiety by practicing in our mind, maybe giving a presentation at work, or for sports people, a particular golf shot or something like that. The more they practice it in the mind, the more they can actually improve what they do, because the mind has got it off to a T. They can practice it perfectly in their mind and then go and execute it perfectly when they have to, because that takes away that element of anxiety. It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, no, it is. And
I love it.
The same as when you hear people talking about affirmations, people doing affirmations, is that in line with that, or is that something completely different?
I guess it kind of is. It's kind of calming. Yeah, it's like an anchor. Yeah, it's calming the mind by that repetition, and just reducing that, taking the focus away from the anxiety into and sort of talking positively is really important. But you asked about meditation as well, didn't you? Whether hypnosis was different from meditation. It's similar in some ways, in that it is a relaxation, but there is a fundamental difference really, in that with meditation you tend to be focusing attention to the present. So you'll be sort of, I don't know a lot about meditation. I have done a bit of it, but you might be sort of thinking about how your feet feel on the floor, or how your bottom feels on the seat, sort of focusing on that present time. And it does take some effort. Hypnotherapy is quite different in that it's not really about being here. We might take the client off somewhere completely different. We might take them off in a boat. We might take them in the woods, and then thinking about the sensations in that situation. And the effort is all from the hypnotherapist. It's not from the client. The client can just relax and enjoy it and think about whatever they want to do. And you can actually see the difference if you look at the brain waves. If you use EEG, where they have the electrodes on the outside of the scalp, and look at the brain waves, both meditation and hypnosis will actually reduce those busy beta waves, that the plate spinning stuff. It reduces those waves. But in hypnotherapy, there's an increase in what they call the theta waves, in those decision-making areas of the brain. So that's where the problem-solving bit comes in. So when we take people into trance, those particular brain waves get activated, and that's when the brain starts working on making changes, and that's how it works. The brain gets busy on looking for the solutions.
So how does it tend to when say a client comes to you, do they come to you is it something where you think, right, okay, we need a block of X number of sessions to kind of work through this problem? Or is it a case of, actually, do you know what, someone would benefit from coming on a regular basis, every periodically, on an ongoing basis? How does it, how does that tend to work?
Yeah, it's very difficult to tell how many sessions a client's going to need. We start off weekly, but then we sort of look for an improvement, and then a sort of plateauing. So we might start to spread them out. So we might have a few weekly ones, and then go to, when we see an improvement, go to 2 weeks, and then monthly. But what we try and do is make sure that that the client leaves us able to handle life by themselves, so they don't need to come back. We say to our clients, I don't want to see you again. I mean, if they want to, they're perfectly welcome to come back, but by putting in the right number of sessions and not finishing too soon, we give the client those tools to, just sort of go away and enjoy life. And if they do find challenges, they know how to deal with them, and it doesn't set them back. If they finish too soon, then it kind of doesn't consolidate that change. So, yeah.
The last thing I want to ask, because I'm just kind of conscious, I really want to protect your time tonight. And I'm really grateful that
I don't mind.
Giving us your time. I know you could talk about this all night. Can you?
Absolutely.
Obviously, so the women in our community are all mums here, and I know will relate to a lot of what we've talked about tonight. But are there any kind of exercises that you could recommend that mums could do at home to help with mental well-being and wellness?
Yeah, it's all about having the right chemicals going on in the brain, and I talk about a dose of happiness, DOSE, and these are the chemicals. So dopamine, we get dopamine when we get jobs done, when we tick things off. It's that good feeling when we finish that pile of ironing, and just not setting yourself too much to do, but actually just getting something done that you feel pleased with yourself about, and we get that good feeling. Then there's oxytocin. This is the sort of cuddle hormone. We get that when we when we cuddle our kids or hubby, or stroke the cat. It's that hormone that makes the bond between mum and baby just after birth. So a dose of oxytocin always makes us feel better. Then there's serotonin, which is kind of comes from the positivity, which is the thing that we kind of promote. So positive thinking, positive action, positive interaction. So being sociable is a big important thing. So those positives, and then endorphins, and you bring that in yourself with the exercise. It's that endorphins is that runner's high. We don't have to run marathons to get it. It's that good feeling when you've just done a bit of exercise. But it also comes from laughter, interestingly. So if you watch something, I often sometimes say to my clients, maybe watch something funny on TV. So even the anticipation of laughter or the memory of laughter will actually give you a boost of endorphins. But I would say the most important thing is, and you mentioned it earlier, is sleep. We kind of think that our brain is resting when we go to sleep, but actually it's not. It's working incredibly hard, probably harder than it did during the day. And what it's doing is it's dealing with all the rubbish of the day, all that stuff that we've put into what we call our stress bucket. It's kind of emptying our bucket for us, and decide, most stuff just gets chucked out, but making sure that we get a good night's sleep is really important for us to wake up feeling motivated and happy and confident. So I would say the best thing to do is just practice good sleep hygiene. There's loads of stuff on the internet about that, but stay away from those blue screens. Have an alarm clock. Don't have your phone. Don't have your phone by the bed. Don't watch TV. Just wind down, relax, maybe have a warm bath, a warm drink, and have the bedroom at a nice temperature, all those sorts of things, because that's the very best thing you can do for yourself. And it's difficult with children, with small children. Your night's quite often broken by kids coming in, but it is important, very important. And if anyone watching or listening rather wants a copy of my download, I have a relaxation track which is about 35 minutes long, which helps to get off to sleep. And even if you do sleep well, it gives you a better quality of sleep. So if anybody wants that, it is actually available on my website, janefoxhypnotherapy.co.uk. There's a tab that says listen, and my track's on there. Or if they want it sent, I'll send it to their email address if they want to.
Amazing.
Message me with that. I'm quite happy to share that.
Amazing,
Okay.
Amazing. I absolutely, everything you've said there is just absolutely spot on. Could not agree anymore. And I could sit and chat and finish off this bottle of wine and chat to you all night, Jane. It's fascinating. So thank you so much for your time tonight. And I know that there's just so much value there that a lot of the mums in here will absolutely massively appreciate. So thank you so much for your time.
No,
Jane,
it's been my pleasure.
Oh, thank you. We did it. We didn't have any technical glitches.
I know.
But I will, obviously, I will share this and will be posted in the community, and I will post all of Jane's links and contact details. So anybody who does want to reach out to Jane directly can reach out to her as well. And just out of curiosity, because I know you're based obviously in the Northwest, Jane, but if there are people that are further afield, do you do anything for people further afield?
Yeah, it works perfectly well over Skype. Hypnotherapy works perfectly well over Skype.
Okay, great stuff. Jane, thank you so much. Have a lovely evening. And again, thank you so much for your time. And for everyone in the community, I will see you all very, very soon. Good night.